considering the magnitude of what has happened today, but I will say the biggest emotion that I am seeing is a lot of concern, anxiety, and fear on the faces of parents as they arrive here to pick up and reunite with their students. We've spoken about it several times this afternoon, just how surprising it is that these young 9th and 10th graders who we've been chatting with, who have been sharing their stories so bravely, how calm they have been. But that doesn't mean just because they are putting on a brave face that this hasn't impacted them, right? You've got a lot of adrenaline. You're almost, in shock sometimes in these types of situations, something of this level of traumatic experience, right? But you don't know how they're going to feel later on this evening, tomorrow, when official word comes back and when victims are officially identified by the coroner's office and therefore passed on to the media and through law enforcement agencies. Once that comes out, and it's not just people sharing about it, but really seeing those names and the pictures and the lives that were impacted and lost and their loved ones. When that becomes real, that could also be a secondary moment for when this type of situation hits hard for those folks, for these young people. So I have not really seen a lot of tears. I've just seen a lot of eager people who want to share their experience. And also the thing that I keep hearing over and over and over again is that this one math teacher was really just loved, admired, and appreciated, who students say was shot, was laying, in a hallway, in a pile of blood. I just keep hearing about this one staff member and how much he meant to those students. But again, right now they are putting on brave faces and they are speaking about what they have witnessed, what they have seen. Earlier, a student shared with me a little bit more in depth of where the shootings unfolded. Again, remember, we have 4 confirmed dead, 9 at area hospitals. But right behind me, you can see that this brick building with 4 white columns right over the doorway, that is the gymnasium. We are told that that is one of the locations of the shooting and that the coach went to open a door and was shot at that gymnasium. And then on the opposite side of the school in the J hallway, I am told that is another scene of the shooting. And when we looked at a map of the school that a student provided to us, you could really see how far apart these 2 locations were. So there really was a lot of time that it must have taken the suspect to get from J hallway or to the gymnasium or vice versa. So the 2 locations have a lot of distance in between them. A lot of the students have talked about having to pass, the bodies of either their teachers or students as they have made their way from the hallway to safety outside. One thing that we have gathered that we just aren't going to show because it is just so graphic, but we need to talk about it because these students are seeing it. It's important for families to understand what they have gone through, right? We don't want to show the video. It is graphic, but you can see a video recording of a law enforcement officer, trying to point kids into the direction of the hallway that they need to go to get to safety. But as they are listening to his instructions and going in the direction that he is guiding them, you can see very clearly a body on the ground covered with a very thin white sheet, blood coming through it. So these young, freshmen and sophomores, these young kids are having to walk by that body in the hallway in order to exit the school and get to, the back part of campus over by the football field, which is where they gathered after the fact. And, one of the kids who shared that map with me earlier of the school and said that a majority of it was in J hallway, he says that's where a lot of the classrooms are for the 9th graders. I'm being told that the 9th graders, the youngest kids in this entire school, that they are the ones who experienced and were, exposed to this shooting and trauma. So again, these young folks are going to have a lot to unpack this evening as the adrenaline wears off and as they get home to that safe place with their family and their parents, and they start to explain what they experienced. And not only that, but when the harder news comes down of the lives that were lost today. And again, this is a very close-knit community. We heard from a freshman earlier this afternoon who said, I can't believe it would happen in this
in the aftermath of what has happened. Brittany, thanks. We're certainly going to learn more coming up at 4:30 when we bring you the latest from investigators. Brittany, thanks. We are receiving a statement from former President Trump. We heard from Vice President Harris at a rally earlier today. The former president saying that our hearts are with the victims and loved ones of those affected by the tragic event in Winder, Georgia. Those cherished children were taken from us far too soon by a sick and deranged monster. That from former President Trump, who's scheduled to speak at a town hall up in Pennsylvania tonight.
When we talk about the difficulty for this community to grapple what has happened there at Appalachia High School, and you think about for law enforcement as well, how traumatic it is to have to do the forensics for this crime scene, to have to notify 4 families today that their loved one is no longer here. It just speaks to when these mass shootings happen, just the trickle down of how many, the tentacles that are extended of how many people are impacted by news by this.
Well, and we talked about how some students' lives will be forever changed and whose lives will be put on a completely different trajectory in light of what happened. These are only, as Brittany was reporting, 9th graders in the immediate vicinity in this hallway J where the freshmen assemble and go to class, where presumably a lot of this happened.
Yeah, as we're continuing to show you some of the images of what happened there at Appalachia High School, what hasn't changed is the police presence that is on that campus right now. I don't think any of the law enforcement really has barely left as they continue to comb through this investigation that sounds like it's going to be very extensive in a school of 1,900 students. So you're talking about a large facility, and then investigating where this suspect lives. We talked about, I'm sure authorities have since descended on that person's home, again, to try to gather some clues. We have to determine what a motive is here, what sparked this, what inspired this person to arm themselves and come to the school and commit such a tragedy.
So many questions yet to be answered. We want to get out to Johnny Edwards, Fox 5 investigative reporter who is at the Northeast Medical Center in Barrow, where, Johnny, we understand 2 of the victims were brought for gunshot and a couple for anxiety reasons.
No, actually, we're told one gunshot wound victim is being treated here right now. Also, 4 other patients being treated here for symptoms related to anxiety or panic attack. From the outside, it looks like any other day here at the hospital, but a spokesman confirming that information for us. Also at Northeast Georgia Medical Center's Gainesville Hospital, there is another gunshot wound victim being treated there. That is a level 1 trauma center, also with non-life-threatening issues, non-life-threatening injuries. At the Brazelton location, there is also one patient there with symptoms related to anxiety or panic attack. Also around Atlanta, we know of one patient at Grady Hospital. Another hospital, Children's Healthcare's Eggleston Hospital, is a patient taken there for evaluation and treatment with the extent of injuries unclear at this time on that patient. This is, of course, an evolving situation. We'll keep you posted as we get more details. Reporting live in Winder, Johnny Edwards, Fox 5 News.
All right, Johnny, thank you so much. Let's go to our Denise Dillon, who is live at Eggleston Children's Hospital for us on the ground, where, Denise, again, we know that one patient has been taken there.
Yeah, well, when first responders first pulled up to the school, they took a look at all the victims and determined which hospital would be best equipped to treat each patient. And as you said, one of those patients was rushed here to Children's Healthcare of Atlanta at Eggleston. The hospital has confirmed that for us. Now, sources close to the hospital say that the patient being treated here is a 15-year-old female student with a gunshot wound. We do not know know her condition. But obviously, as I said, medical personnel determined that Eggleston is best equipped to treat her injuries. We do hope to find out more about the condition of this student, as well as the others who were wounded in this tragic shooting. And as you just heard Johnny Edwards say, that these victims were transported to hospitals across the region in getting the best possible treatment for their wounds. Reporting live outside Children's Healthcare of Atlanta at Eggleston, Denise Dillon, Fox 5
Denise,
News.
thanks. The trauma folks at these hospitals well equipped to receive, unfortunately, patients like this, but they are ready when that does happen. One of the places where that couldn't be more true is Grady Memorial Hospital, where earlier today, one of the victims of today's shooting was airlifted. Fox 5's Angelique Proctor was there when the helicopter landed, and Angelique, you saw the GBI going into the hospital to try to gather whatever information they could.
That's right, Tom. We have been monitoring activity here at Grady Memorial Hospital all day long, and it was around 11:35 this morning. I heard that helicopter landing as it came in, obviously with that one patient, the gunshot victim that we were told about here at Grady Memorial Hospital. Lots of people wondering why shootings like this are still happening. We've had so many people to stop us and ask us today, are you here in connection to that shooting that happened in Winder at Appalachia High School? And we have to break the news to them that, yes, that is why we are here. Keep in mind, Appalachia High School, some 45 miles away, at least an hour drive. That's one of the reasons that that critically injured person was airlifted here this morning and has been treated here at Grady Hospital. We continue to ask officials here a lot of questions about that patient, questions that they say.
Richard Elliott stating that he went to high school with David Phoenix, and this man has been in the teaching educational realm for a number of years. So happy to report that his family is saying that he is in stable condition now.
United States Attorney General Merrick Garland saying today he is devastated by the events and the families affected today and offers up his full support to the community.
The Justice Department stands ready to provide any resources or support that the Winder community needs in the days ahead.
Of course, to his left there is Christopher Ray, an Atlanta native. Garland says the FBI and ATF are on the scene working closely with state, local, and federal partners. Former President Donald Trump also reacting to the school shooting in our community today on Truth Social, saying our hearts are with the victims and loved ones of those affected by the tragic event in Winder, Georgia. These cherished children were taken from us far too soon by a sick and deranged monster.
Now, Congressman Mike Collins represents that part of Georgia, and he says his family is praying for everyone involved. His statement added, "We extend our gratitude to law enforcement for their swift action to secure the school and get the shooter in custody. I've spoken with Sheriff Smith and told him my team and I are available to assist in any way necessary."
And more reaction on the school shooting from the president of Georgia's NAACP, Gerald Griggs, is saying on social media, another senseless act of violence at a Georgia school. Thoughts and prayers to the victims, and we need to really discuss common sense gun reform in Georgia.
We've been live covering this breaking news for you now for 5 hours, and we'll be with you all evening long gathering new information about the lives lost, the surviving victims, as well as the ongoing investigation. Taking a live look now, you are seeing the law enforcement that is there on campus right now making their way to the spot where reporters and media have gathered for a news conference that we were expecting to happen at 4 this evening. They're making their way there now. We do have reporter Tom Jones there and his photographer positioned for the news conference that we will be bringing to you live.
Yeah, so they gave us their last report, which was very thin on information. They admitted as much, of course. That was about 1:05 p.m. today. And so here we are now, seen working closely with state, local, and federal partners. Former President Donald Trump also reacting to the school shooting in our community today on Truth Social, saying our hearts are with the victims and loved ones of those affected by the tragic event in Winder, Georgia. These cherished children were taken from us far too soon by a sick and deranged monster.
Now, Congressman Mike Collins represents that part of Georgia, and he says his family is praying for everyone involved. His statement added, "We extend our gratitude to law enforcement for their swift action to secure the school and get the shooter in custody. I've spoken with Sheriff Smith and told him my team and I are available to assist in any way necessary."
And more reaction on the school shooting from the president of Georgia's NAACP, Gerald Griggs, is saying on social media, another senseless act of violence at a Georgia school. Thoughts and prayers to the victims, and we need to really discuss common sense gun reform in Georgia.
We've been live covering this breaking news for you now for 5 hours, and we'll be with you all evening long, gathering new information about the lives lost, the surviving victims, as well as the ongoing investigation. Taking a live look now, you are seeing the law enforcement that is there on campus right now, making their way to the spot where reporters and media have gathered for a news conference that we were expecting to happen at 4 this evening. They're making their way there now. We do have reporter Tom Jones there and his photographer positioned for the news conference that we will be bringing to you live.
Yeah, so they gave us their last report, which was very thin on information. They admitted as much, of course. That was about 1:05 p.m. today. And so here we are now at 6 hours and just a few minutes past when the shooting occurred at Appalachia High School, where 4 were killed, 9 injured, and a 14-year-old suspect in custody. That's what we have now. We have not gotten on camera official word from law enforcement or school officials since that 1:05 p.m. news conference. Here you see members of GBI. And so we're going to stay with this and listen very carefully as we get this update from Winder, Georgia, and Barrow County and Appalachia High School. Here's the latest now as we all hang on these words.
Good afternoon. I am Chris Hosey, Director of the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, and we wanted to come back this afternoon and present you with a little more of a timeline of the events that have taken place here today and what we know up to this point with the investigation. At approximately 10:20 a.m. this morning, the Barrow County Sheriff's Office received alerts about reports of an active shooter and radio traffic from school resource officers concerning the same concern, or having the same concern. Within minutes, law enforcement was on scene, as well as 2 school resource officers assigned here to the school, who immediately encountered the subject within just minutes of this report going out. Once they encountered the subject immediately surrendered to these officers, and he was taken into custody. Additionally, what I want you to know as of now, there are 4 individuals who are deceased from this incident, 9 that have been taken to local hospitals with various injuries. Of those that are deceased, 2 are students and 2 are teachers here at the school. The priority right now for us within this investigation is to gather all the facts, to make sure that we're accurate with it, because this is a murder investigation. As the sheriff mentioned earlier this morning, the shooter is in custody. His name is Colt, that's C-O-L-T, Gray. He is a 14-year-old student here at the school, G-R-A-Y. He is a 14-year-old student here at the high school. Again, he has been taken into custody. He will be charged with murder, and he will be tried as an adult and handled as an adult. We're coordinating these charges and obviously this investigation with District Attorney Brad Smith, who is the District Attorney for the Piedmont Judicial Circuit here. Since earlier this morning we talked with you, and since the incident occurred, numerous interviews have been taking place through our investigation with students, faculty, as well as any other witnesses that we could identify. Law enforcement had a very, very swift response to this incident once the incident was determined that there was a concern here. Those resources, whether it was in that response or throughout this investigation to assist, came obviously from the sheriff's office here, from other local law enforcement agencies, state law enforcement agencies, and federal law enforcement agencies as well. To include, not to be left out, multiple EMS personnel, multiple fire personnel, and agencies. Those agencies responded here as well today, and I am extremely grateful, as I know the sheriff is, for that quick response and the partnerships of working here together with what all has gone on. Currently, from the investigative perspective, we have crime scene agents and other special agents from the GBI, from close to a dozen of our different work units from across the state that have responded here today to work on this investigation, again, collecting evidence, conducting interviews, and so forth. I do want to pass this along, that if anyone has any information that wants to be passed on concerning this investigation, that they can do that anonymously at our tip line at 1-800-597-TIPS or 1-800-597-8477. They can also report this on by downloading the See Something, Send Something app. That can be done by Android or Apple phones, either one. If they need to report any tips concerning this investigation. Let me close out before I turn this over to the sheriff and let you just remind you that this is still a very active investigation. There is still a lot that is very fluid. There's still a lot of interviews to be conducted that will continue on into the night, as well as crime scene work and collecting and gathering evidence. But what is more important for me to mention here to you is my heartfelt sympathy to the parents, the students that were here today. Regardless of where they were in the school, this has got a great impact on them as well as on this community. My thoughts and prayers, along with everybody standing behind me and every law enforcement agency in this state, and many I will tell you around this country, they are in our thoughts and prayers, and we will continue with that. We ask for your patience as we continue through this, and we'll continue to try to give you as many updates with information as we can to keep you informed. But thank you for being here. I'm now going to turn it over to Bexar County Sheriff Judge Smith. Thank you. H-O-S-E-Y.
Good afternoon. I'm Sheriff Judge Smith of the Bexar County Sheriff's Office. I never imagined that I would be speaking to the media in my career over something that happened today, the pure evil that happened today. I cannot thank the people behind me for the support they give me today, to give this office and give this staff. This hits home for me. I was born and raised here. I went to school in this school system. My kids go to this school system. I'm proud of this school system. My heart hurts for these kids. My heart hurts for our community. But I want to make it very clear that hate will not prevail in this county. I want that to be very clear and known. Love will prevail over what happened today. I assure you of that. It is very early as to what happened. Governor Kemp reached out to me and has provided me every single resource that he has to make sure justice prevails. I don't know why it happened. I may not ever know. We may not ever know. But I ask that you and our community lift up our schools, lift up our public safety, and that, again, we do not let this hateful event prevail as to what happened today. I want to thank the surrounding agencies and counties and cities and state and federal authorities that have come and provided us, because they prevented a lot of more tragic events from happening. Continue to lift up these families, continue to lift up our students and our kids, and know that love will prevail. At this time, I'm going to ask Dr. LaDuff, our school superintendent, to come and speak on behalf of the school.
Good afternoon, I'm Dallas LaDuff. I'm the superintendent of Bexar County School System. I want to thank the Bexar County Sheriff's Office and all of our law enforcement partners for their swift response today, along with that of our staff. I'd also like to thank our community for their response and patience as we work to reunify the students with their families here today and secure the rest of our school campuses. Our schools will be closed for the remainder of this week as we cooperate fully with law enforcement to get answers to the many questions that we all have about this incident here today. But as we are closed, our central offices will remain open, where we will have grief counseling available for our community every day this week and thereafter as we support each other through this terrible event. In closing, I just want to say to our community, as a school system, we are here for you, we support you, and we are ready to get you any support that you may need as we grieve through this together. Thank you.
Sheriff, if you're saying hate will not prevail in this community, are you investigating this as some sort of hate crime?
Well, shortly, if someone decides to take a firearm into a school where kids are given an education or entitled to an education and want to harm others, to me it's hateful.
Sheriff, can you talk about the initial interaction between whoever was able to stop the shooter? Can you describe that to us? How did it go down? What exactly happened to us?
Obviously, the shooter was armed, and our school resource officer engaged him. And the shooter quickly realized that if he did not give up, that it would end with an OIS, or an officer-involved shooting. He gave up, got on the ground, and the deputy took him into custody.
Sheriff, any idea how the weapon got inside the school? And was there any warning that this was going to happen?
Not that I'm aware of. Again, very early, and we're still looking into that, whether or not, or how he obtained it and how he got it in the school.
Sheriff, have you been in touch at all with his parents or his family to learn more about what led up to these moments?
We have.
Any information you can share?
No.
What kind of weapon was used?
It seems like you have a large Hispanic population. Have you been able to communicate with the people in their language to make sure that everybody knows what's happening?
Yes, sir, I have. The school and our office has people that speak in Spanish, and they have spoke to those folks as well. Yes.
How is video surveillance helping the sheriff?
Sorry.
Is the shooter talking and is he saying why?
The shooter was interviewed, and he was speaking with our investigators earlier, along with the GBI.
How is video surveillance? How is that helping you, Sheriff?
It is helping our investigation.
Sheriff, reports of threatening calls perhaps made to the school prior to the shooting. Is that accurate?
None that I'm aware of.
Were all 9 injured victims shot?
In some capacity, yes.
Sheriff, can you tell us about the 2 individuals and one targeted?
We don't know of any targets at this point.
Sheriff, what kind of weapon was used? Have you identified the weapon?
We have not identified that at this point. No.
Sheriff, is there a connection?
This is the last question I'm going to take.
Sheriff, is there a connection between the shooter and the victim?
None that I'm aware of.
Was the shooter? Is this a student here at the school?
I know that you have a lot of questions about the student and that we mentioned that we identified earlier. Keep in mind that that's part of our investigation, that we're looking into every aspect of that individual, his connection here at the school. Obviously, as I mentioned earlier, he was a student here. So as part of our investigation, we're looking into all aspects, current and prior, involving that individual.
Can you tell us how many rounds were fired? Can you tell us how many rounds were fired?
Do what?
The shooter is a student, yes.
When can we expect?
We do not know how many rounds.
Director, has that shooter had any past history with law enforcement?
For now, this is the information that we have. It is an active investigation. I assure you we do plan to come back out here in a couple of hours. Please make sure you're following the GBIX page. That's where we're going to be putting the updates. If there's anything that's new, we'll make sure that we share that information. It's still very early. Investigators have a lot of work to do. We appreciate your patience. Do expect another in-person news conference out here in the next few hours. Monitor the X page, and we'll be sure to update you accordingly. Thank you.
And that's the